Welcome to the JD Remedy. Hello guys, welcome to another JD Remedy podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to my second episode. Today we're going to be talking about how to break up with your friends. I know, especially in young adults, as we're kind of going through life, this is a pretty hot topic. It definitely was for me anyway. It's something I've spent a lot of time on, something I actually really struggled with in the beginning anyway. But yeah, done a lot of thinking around this topic over the years. I think I've still got a little bit to go in terms of tying up a few loose ends. But for the most part, I'd say I'm pretty content with the relationships and the friends that I have at this point in time. I suppose the first thing to realize is when you were back in high school, you know, if you could think back to the friends that you had at the time or the relationships you had at the time, you could probably say at the time they were pretty strong. You felt pretty strong for those people in that moment. And you probably thought, you know, I can't really imagine spending my life without them. And fast forward to where you are now, you probably don't even speak to that person anymore. So, you know, things happen and changes are definitely made in terms of relationships. For this purpose of this podcast, we're definitely going to talk about friendships. Maybe you're at different stages in terms of this journey, but for the most part, I think people are really just struggling with this kind of thing. So, you know, I've learnt a lot through my own personal experiences, so I will give a lot of examples from my own experience and my own life, but I've also learnt a lot through personal development and also speaking to other people around this topic and what their experience is. So it's always good to reach out and listen to people that I suppose are where you want to be, like I always say. So it's important to know that, you know, the relationships you've had throughout your life, you know, they've come to you at a point in time where you needed them for whatever reason at that point in your life, and that's not a selfish thing. You know, they may have needed you at that point in their life also. So it's never a selfish thing to understand that friendships come and go. You know, we're constantly growing and constantly changing. I don't think we ever change our values or our morals. I think in most cases we just mature, and maybe our hobbies and interests change as well. You know, and from that, I think my cat's just joined me in my recording setup. Yep. Hey, Miko. I think as you gain life experience, your view on the world and I think the view of yourself can change. And I think that's where these, you know, different thoughts and opinions on relationships can happen as well. So I think it's definitely, again, important to remember it's not a selfish thing to kind of sit back and think, you know, is this person actually bringing any value to my life? If not, see ya. See you later. My first example will probably be about one of my best friends, Katie. She's so good of a friend that she makes me question my stature of a friend to her. She makes me question whether I need to be a better friend for her. She's one of the most selfless friends and people that I know. She definitely goes above and beyond for everyone around her at all times. And they're the kind of people that you want to surround yourself with, right? They're the kind of friendships you want to have, the ones that make you go, oh, you make me want to be a better person. Like, fuck, how good is it? Like, how good is that feeling when you know that you have those kind of people in your life? So to me, you know, that's kind of how I always relate back to, like, how do I feel about a certain person and what value do they bring to my life? And if they don't bring that feeling to my life or make me question whether I'm giving them back the same level of friendship, then I think I now know that I'm probably not going to be friends with them. So we'll talk about a few different stages that you'll go through with this topic in this journey. And I hope because you're listening to this podcast, you're probably at one of these stages. So the first stage is I'm so confused. So this stage you start questioning your thoughts and you're quite confused. So it's your confusion stage. thoughts like, why don't I want to hang out with this person anymore? Or, we used to be so close. What happened? I can't be bothered talking to this person, or I don't really want to hang out with them. In extreme cases, you might have the thoughts of, why was I ever friends with this person in the first place? So I think with this first stage, you're actually at that stage where you've grown a little bit and you're actually starting to question your relationships around you, and you're actively thinking about the value that they bring or don't bring to your life. So the next stage is probably guilt. Once you've realized that you probably don't want to be their friend, you have the guilty thoughts of, am I being selfish here? Am I a bad person for not wanting to be their friend? Am I being too critical of this person? They need me. That's a big reason why you should leave them, but we'll get into that later. Very important to understand. Again, all of the above is normal thoughts, but definitely doesn't make you a bad person or anything like that. It's important to understand as well that you will have different circles and levels of friendship throughout your lifetime. You might have your ride or die friends, where you can go months without talking and you know that they'll always be there, and you don't have that lingering feeling or thought of, oh God, are they going to like me still? They're your ride or die friends. You might have your work friends or your work colleagues where you've met them through work. Sharon from the office is a good laugh and gives good advice about X, Y, and Z. You might have party friends, the ones where you can always ring them at a random hour and probably guarantee that they'll come to that rave in the middle of nowhere with you and drink until the sun comes up. Those kind of friends. We all have one of those. You go to each circle of friends for different advice and to receive different value. That's really important to remember, because each person can give something different in your life. As long as it's positive and as long as it's bringing something of value into your life, then it's good to have different circles of friends, I think. I'll give an example here. Someone I used to be friends with, at the point I was friends with her, we were very, very close. We were hanging out all the time, but we actually met at work. So I'd say that she was a work friend. She left the company. I haven't spoken to her in over a year, but at the time I thought we were very good friends and it was going to be a long-term friendship. There's no bad blood. We didn't have a fallout or anything. I think we just naturally grew apart. If I saw her now, obviously I'd give her a huge hug, ask how she's been and what she's been up to, and then continue about my day. It's just so strange to me how the dynamics of relationships can change, but for no other reason than they've already served their purpose in your life and you've served your purpose in their life, if that makes sense. And again, I'm going to remind you guys, this is not a selfish thing. I now know that friends come and go, and you have certain friends at certain times of your life for very particular reasons. And I'm really content with that now. So when I was younger, I thought that every new person I met, that I just had to stay friends with them. Like, I made a very strong effort to keep as many friends as I could. And I wanted so badly to hold on to every friendship I ever made. I was always kind of a little bit annoyed when the friendship didn't continue, especially with work friends, because I always felt like I made such a big effort to be such a good friend. But I didn't understand that it's normal to not have a million friends for the whole of your life. I think for me, I'm a very bubbly person, but I'm also very empathetic. So I just want to latch on to people and support them and help them as much as I can. And when they're done with me, they don't have a purpose for me anymore, because I didn't understand at the time, I was going through those anxious thoughts of, what's wrong with me? Why don't they want to be friends with me? Am I an asshole? Why doesn't anybody want to be my friend? But I was just going through the motions, right? And now that I've been through it all and I'm content with my circle of friends, I can look back and go, thank you for the value that you brought to my life at that time. That is really powerful and will help you guys so much once you have that understanding. I hope by the end of this podcast, you can really, take a look at the people around you and think about it differently. That's kind of, I suppose, the purpose of this as well. I have a similar example of a co-worker that's kind of gone the opposite. So I met her at work. I actually value her as a lifelong friend now. As you get older, you kind of understand the difference straight away of whether you'll be keeping this person around forever, or they're just kind of nice to hang around with at work but you wouldn't catch up with them outside of work, like that kind of thing. This could be in any circle, but work is just something I've come across a lot, for example, so that's probably what I'll use. I definitely have signs of how I know what a relationship is going to be. For this person in particular, there's no forced effort from either of us. We just click straight away. We've had really in-depth, honest conversations with each other. And I just know she brings so much joy and happiness and value to my life. I just couldn't imagine my life without her. It's, she always supports me. She's very uplifting. And I obviously do the same for her. And they're the kind of friends I want. And they're the kind of friends that I will make an effort to have around long term. I will nurture those kind of friendships because I do not want her going anywhere. So they're the kind of friends you want, and that's how you understand the difference when you're a little bit older and you've gone through the rings with losing friends. Yeah, I know it's long term because I've also left the company and we're still very close. So far so good. I remember back when I was younger, through 18, 19, 20s, I was the party girl, and I had quite a big house growing up, so I'd always have really big birthdays. I remember my 18th, 19th and even 20th birthday. I think I had 80 plus people at my party. Like, how crazy is that? Can you imagine having that many friends? Like, now that I'm 27, that just is so exhausting to me. Like, that's ridiculous. And obviously, as the years went on, they became, the people at my party, the number became less and less. And I got content with that. It just becomes exhausting having a large circle of friends. But what I also realized, I didn't have a lot of friends. I had a lot of acquaintances, some of them I'd hang out with, often, but others it's just, I have X amount of people on Facebook who can I invite to my party that I speak to on social media. It's a status thing, right? When you're younger, you just want to be surrounded, especially when you're bubbly and, a party girl like I was when I was younger. I just wanted to be surrounded by as many people as I could because it was fun and I loved having conversations with people. I loved having fun with people, and yeah, but now that's just so exhausting to me. I can't think of anything worse. So obviously this is what I mean. You change and you grow, and your friend circles do as well. But now that I've grown up and I've gone through all this, I have very few friends, but they're real friends and long-term friends and valuable friendships. There's a massive difference in the level of connections and value between the two friendships. So yeah, that's something very important as well, is connection. Are you just speaking to them on Facebook and you invite them to your party, you say hello and you have a drunken dance together and they go home? Or are they the friends that you call in your darkest hours and you really are a deep level friendship? There's a massive difference between the two. Obviously, as you're getting older and you're growing as well, as an adult, you just have so much that you're trying to juggle. Romantic relationships, work, family, other friends, your real friends kind of are going through the same things and they understand we're adults and we've got shit to do, right? Like, having a friend shouldn't be a chore. It should just be something that naturally kind of is there, and you make time and you make effort for the very few people you have in your life, but they're your good friends that you want to make time for. And I think it's important to note this might be different for everybody. Like, I'm content having, maybe 4 people that are my very good close friends, but you might be someone that somehow has 20 very close friends, and if that works for you, then good for you, but I don't have time and energy for that. So this is my own personal experience, but if you have time for that, then all the power to you go get them. The next thing we can talk about, I suppose, is signs that you should probably drop your friend. This is kind of wrapping up everything we just spoke about. So signs that you might want to drop a friend is if they always have the same problems but are never willing to do anything to help themselves, especially if they're relying on you for their main source of support or advice. This can become very frustrating and demanding on the friendship as well as you as an individual person, with your energy and your time and your mental state. If the relationship has become more of a chore rather than something that is just naturally joyful in your life, if the relationship is bringing you down, that kind of thing, that's when they need to go, buddy. They need to go. If you have selfish friends, I've experienced this quite a bit in my life actually, and I think sometimes I bring it on myself because I'm very easy to talk to, I'm empathetic, I like to think I give good advice, so I think I may have brought this on in my lifetime myself, so I can take some ownership there. But it can be very draining if you have a selfish friend, in terms of, they're always talking about their problems, or they're gossiping or telling their stories. They never really ask how you are. That's a red flag in a friendship. It should be very even support and, interest in your other person's life, not just their own. If you have nothing in common with that friend anymore, stop hanging out with them. It's okay if you've grown apart and you have different interests and hobbies. You don't have to force yourself to stay friends with someone. Friendship takes a very natural course sometimes. So just let it happen. Do not force it. And then obviously the extreme of this, signs to stop hanging out with someone, is if they're a bad fucking person or they're a bad friend. Are they talking about you behind your back? Are they gossiping about you? Do you not trust them? Are they putting you down? Do they not make you feel good about yourself? Do they just talk shit about you whenever you talk about your dreams, or you're excited for a new work or a new job? Or are they just not happy for you? Soz, man. I need people around me that are going to uplift me and support me, not bring me down. So that's one extreme as well, is just get rid of them if they're a fucking asshole. I do have an example of when I have dropped a friend. That sounds really harsh, but it's just for the sake of this podcast. Let's just call it dropping a friend. So I have slowly but surely been dropping a friend. The reasons I wanted to do this is they weren't really bringing much to my life, obviously, but them as a person, they're not really doing much with their life, and they don't really have any plans to change that. That is completely fine. I'm not here to judge someone's life journey, but in terms of what I need in my life, I'm quite an ambitious, motivated person. I need to be surrounded by people who inspire me, people who support and motivate me, and they just weren't really doing any of that. So I didn't feel in any way that they were any value to me anymore. And I know that sounds harsh, but once you've gone through all of this, you need to be content with who you are as a person and where you're going in your life, and then you can very confidently say, I just don't need you anymore. And that's okay. At one point in time, this person, we were very, very close, But yeah, once I realized all of that, and don't get me wrong, we probably see each other a few times a year for birthdays and stuff, and we have good conversations. But again, it's one of those conversations where it can be very draining and very negative very quickly. So I'm okay with seeing that person twice a year because it doesn't really affect me. But any more than that, it's just not my cup of tea. I very rarely was asked in return how I was doing, and I felt bad at first for slowly leaving the relationship, and that's where the guilt and everything comes into it that I explained later. But I feel really good now. They're still a friend, but just, I'll continue to see them a couple of times a year. So what now? You've kind of realized there's a few steps, a few thoughts, a few emotions, and a few feelings that you might go through with each friendship. These steps could be in different order, by the way. You could be at the first step with someone, or you could be at the last step and be like, shit, okay, maybe it's time to drop them, right? And the next thing is, how do I do that? How do I get this person away from me or out of my life in the nicest way possible? Okay, we're not about to be assholes here. I'm not going to tell you to turn into fucking Godzilla or a witch and just be an absolute asshole, because I believe in treating everybody with respect. Yes, be the bigger person. So plain and simple, a few things we can do. Stop hanging out with them. I'm assuming at this point, if you're wanting to drop them, you're not seeing them every single day anyway. If you are, what are you doing with your life? But let's assume for this purpose, you're not seeing them every day. You just stop seeing them. Less and less and less. Don't go out of your way to start conversations with them. Don't invite them to things. You don't have to be rude or an asshole. But if you're no longer invested in the relationship, but they are, and they won't leave you alone after you try to step away from the relationship, you may be in a position where you need to have an honest conversation with them. And when I say honest conversation, it's, be polite and assertive, but it's this is why I need my space from you, for X, Y, and Z, whatever the reasons are. A few things could happen from this conversation. If they're a decent person, obviously they'll understand and the separation will naturally take its course. Or they could suffocate you in your sleep. But it just kind of reaffirms why you would be leaving the relationship anyway, right? It's important to note here, it's not okay to try and change a person in a friend relationship. If they ask you for advice, etc., then give them advice. But if their values, morals, attitude, whatever it is, doesn't align with you, then just leave the friendship. Don't try and change them. Don't spend so much time trying to help them. This is some big mistakes that I have made, especially being as empathetic and as nurturing as I am. And remember, I said I went wrong with a lot of this because a lot of people come to me for support. I still struggle with this. I'm that person that's like, no, I can change this person. Like, I'm going to help them. I'm going to turn them around. Trust me, it's a fucking waste of time. Like, unless you're a paid fucking coach or a therapist or whatever it is, it's not your place to change a person's life, right? So just don't bother. If they're not aligning with who you are, where you're going, they just don't support you and what you're doing in life, then ditch them. Like, do not waste your time. Friendship is very valuable, and make time for the ones that bring you value and joy to your life. Do not make time, energy, or effort for people that do not give you any of that stuff, because trust me, it's exhausting. I mentioned this in my first podcast, but I'm going to say it again and probably a few hundred more times, but it's my favorite thing. So 2 things. A reminder, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around. This ties in with this podcast. Think about who you're hanging around with. Are those people serving you? Are they supporting you? Are they uplifting you? Are they bringing fucking value and joy to your life? If not, go through these motions. Really start thinking about who you are surrounding yourself with, okay? Second one, proximity is power. Only take advice from people that are where you want to be. Really think about who you are surrounding yourself with. That's the biggest takeaway from this. I suppose as you grow and as you continue to work on things and experience life and mold who you are in this world, you'll become more comfortable with this. It's absolutely a natural part of life's journey. I've definitely had a struggle in coming to terms with that, but I know that now. It's absolutely normal to lose friends. They will come and go. Try to let go of any of the guilty and anxious thoughts that you'll experience through this, because they will hold you back. And just note, you will experience them. It's a normal part of letting go of friends. If you're a decent person, obviously you'll have guilty thoughts. But don't hold on to them. Think about them, then let them go. Because if you don't let them go, you'll be stuck with that person forever, and it's just not going to serve you. I suppose the most important thing to be able to do this is know your worth. You have to have a strong vision of who you want to be, where you want to go in life. And unless you are really comfortable with those things, you're not going to be comfortable choosing who comes along on that journey with you, if that makes sense. So if you're really content with, this is the kind of person I want to be, then you'll know straight away, but you're not helping me get to that vision of myself. So you need to be confident in saying, thanks so far for the ride, mate, but get off here, kind of thing. Okay? That is the biggest thing you can probably take away from this. So be content with who you are and where you want to go, and other people that you're hanging around with helping you get there. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want really long podcasts. I suppose the more content I put out, I'm hoping they'll get longer for you guys, but just trying to get in the rhythm of things. I've got a whole bunch of topics that I want to cover. But yeah, leave me some love. Again, however you do that, I'm not sure. But yeah, I should be on Google, Apple, and Spotify now. So however you're listening and tuning in, thank you. Again, if you've come from YouTube, thank you as well. But this has been fun. And until next week, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.